Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel, to Pinson to Flood for the Win, the Hall of the Very Good. Today we're going to talk about a couple of different things. But the first thing we're going to talk about is, in hockey, there are a lot of teams that have really good lines, and they give them names. And, there's the Legion of Doom with the Philadelphia Flyers. There's tons of them out there. But one of the ones that doesn't get much attention is the Bicentennial Line. Pittsburgh had been around the league since, I think, 67. And it was in the early 70s. They weren't very good. And they got these three guys together, and they were called the Bicentennial Line because they went 4 years in a row of almost 100 goals and over 200 assists 4 years in a row before the line broke up and people went their different ways. But for 4 years, this was one of the top lines in the league and ended up making Pittsburgh kind of brought them out a little bit. They never did make the playoffs, but they became a pretty good team, 500 and above. They were solid in those 4 years from 72 all the way up to 76. So we're going to look at some of the players. There were Lowell McDonald, Sil Apps, and Joan Pronovost. And first we'll put this on the back here. We'll look at Lowell McDonald, who had to overcome a knee injury. He was drafted by he wasn't drafted by the Rangers, but he started out playing for Los Angeles. Here's a couple of his cards. Oh, I actually got one more. Let's put the other one up here. Might as well get them all in there if we can, if I don't drop them. But Lowell McDonald was born in Nova Scotia, New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, in August of 41. And he played with Hamilton Red Wings and Hamilton Tiger Cubs as the amateur teams before he moved on to his pro career. He started off in Detroit, actually in 1961. Played in Detroit for 4 years. Not the most games he ever played was 26. And then after the 65 season, he got traded to was in the minors for 65 through 66. And then in 1967, the expansion Kings picked him up. And he had a couple okay years. He played over 50 games both years, had 45 points in 28. And then in 1970-71 season, he was traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And he only got in one game. He had missed all of the year before with that knee injury. So he wasn't fully back 70-71. And in 71-72, he had another injury. And didn't look like his career was going to go anywhere. And then in 72-73, fully healthy, he started a 4-year run where he made the All-Star team in 72-73 and 73-74. And in 72-73, he had 75 points with 34 goals and 41 assists. He followed that up with 43 goals, 39 assists for 82 points. And then had 27 goals, 33 assists for 60 points through the 74-75 season. The last year that this group was together, he played in 69 games and had 30 goals and 43 assists for 73 points. His career was basically those 4 years. He only played 2 more years in Pittsburgh, but only got in 21 games and was done at the age of 36. But in his career for Pittsburgh, he had 140 of his 180 goals, 166 of his 210 assists, and 306 points, and was really just a really good left winger for this group. And this line stayed together for 4 years and was really, really strong, and one of the better groups in all of hockey during the early 70s. After we'll go there, and we'll go to the center of the team, and that was Sil Apps. The name might sound familiar because his dad had the exact same name and played from 1936 to 1948 for the Toronto Maple Leafs and was considered one of the 100 greatest players of all time. So he had good stock, but it's rare that sons of famous players amount to a lot. And Sil Apps he was drafted by the Rangers in the 4th round in 1964. He played on Princeton as his amateur team. He made his debut in 1970-71 season, playing for the Rangers, and then he started off with the Rangers, then got traded to Pittsburgh. He played 31 games in both places. At Pittsburgh, he scored a total of 25 points in his 31 games, so almost a point a game. And then 71-72, the year before the line was all put together, He had 15 goals and 44 assists for 59 points and a plus 17 plus minus rating, which is really good. The next 4 years or 5 years were the bulk of his career was really pretty good from that point on. The first year with the Bicentennial Line, he had 29 goals and 56 assists for 85 points. 73-74, he had 24 goals, 61 assists for 85 points. 74-75, his only year as an All-Star, he had 24 goals, 55 assists for 79 points. And the next year, he played in all 80 games for Pittsburgh. This last year that this group was together, he had 32 goals, 67 assists for 99 points, his career high in all of those categories. That was the most goals, most assists, most points he would ever get in his career. The following year, he played 72 games, had 18 goals, 43 assists for 61 points. Started the year off, played 9 games, had 7 assists for Pittsburgh before he's traded to the LA Kings, where he had 19 goals, 26 assists for 45 points. And he would play the next 2 years with the Los Angeles Kings, and at the age of 32 would walk away. In his career, he had 183 goals, 423 assists for 606 points. I mean, that's a really nice career. Had a plus minus of 311, which is outstanding. In his total 8-year career, he had 151 goals, for his Pittsburgh career, he had 151 goals, 349 assists for 500 points, and was basically the glue of that line. The star of the line was probably Jean Provenance. He had the most points and has a very good lineage himself. Brother Marcel was very, very good. That was still lapsed. I didn't show all his cards. Here's Jean Provenance. Very good player. There's a 69-70. I love that style. I think that's one of my favorite cards. I'm partially thinking about putting that set together because I just really love that hockey stick coming down that wood, and it's a great set. It's a 69-70 set. John started off with the Niagara Falls Flyers, was his amateur team, and his brothers were Claude Provenance and Marcel Provenance, who was really good. Came up in 68-69, was his first year with Pittsburgh, and immediately played 76 games. Had 16 goals, 25 assists for 41 points. The following year for Pittsburgh, had 20 goals, 21 assists, 41 points. 70-71, 21, 24, 45. 71-72, 30 goals, 23 assists, 53. So he had reached his highs at the age of 26, and then he started on the Bicentennial Line, and that's where he really took off. In 1972-73, he had 21 goals, 22 assists, 43 points. 73-74, 40 goals, 32 points, 32 assists, 72 points. And then he would run off 4 years in a row of making the All-Star team from 74-75 to 77-78, where he went 43 goals, 32 assists, 75 points. In 75-76, played all 80 games, had 52 goals, 52 points, 52 assists for 104 points. His only year he'd go over 100. 76-77, he had 33 goals, 31 assists for 64 points. And his final year where he was an All-Star, 40 goals, 25 assists, 65 points. The following year, he traded to the Atlanta Flames, where he was solid. He had 28 goals, 39 assists for 67 points, 24 goals, 19 assists for 43 points, 79-80. Then was traded to the Washington Capitals, where he basically just played 1 year. He started the 81-82 season, but only played 10 games and then called it a career. With Pittsburgh in those 10 years, he had 316 goals, 287 assists for 603 points. Outstanding, really outstanding career with Pittsburgh. He played 14 years in the NHL, had almost 1,000 games played, 998, 391 goals, 383 assists for 774 points. I mean, that's a really nice career. It's not Hall of Fame worthy, but a really nice career. And formed, really one of the best lines of that era, the Bicentennial Line. There's plenty of stuff. I'll leave some links to a couple articles to read about, but just a really underrated line that doesn't get a lot of pub, and I thought I'd give them a little love. From there, we're going to move on to, I talk about the one card. You take one card and, talk about a lot of players. We're going to look at the card of the 1965 Topps All-Rookie card. Had 4 players on it, and what caught my attention, one, I'm an Indians fan, but what caught my attention is none of these guys made it. None of them really did much. Usually when you have the 65s are the ones where they started doing a lot of the 4 players. And, you look at most of the 65s, there's usually one guy on there that was, had a pretty decent career, but most of these guys didn't. But we're going to talk about them anyway. I'm going to keep that in the background. And we'll look at Mike Hedlund first. He's right there. Freckled, had lots of freckles. You can see from all these things. He had a number of cards out. Played mostly with the Royals. Came back and played with the Indians. Started his career off. He played high school ball at Arlington High School in Texas. Started off and was picked up by Cleveland, drafted by Cleveland, picked up and put in at the age of 17, 1964, was in the Burlington Class A League. It was okay. He was 0-3, just started 7 games. I mean, again, he got in late in the season. Following year, he came up with Cleveland and played in the majors. That was his first opportunity to play majors. He got into 6 games, but had a high ERA of 6.75. Went to Pawtucket, which was part of the Cleveland, that was their AA team in 1966. Was 6-7. 1967, he played at Portland and Pawtucket, was a combined 8-11 with 3.81 ERA. 1968, he went to Waterbury, which was the AA team of Cleveland. They had gone from Pawtucket to Waterbury. He was 8-13 with a 2.30 ERA, which was his strongest ERA and his best record he'd have for a while. Got into the majors again in 1969 with Kansas City, was traded. Was 3-6 that year with a 3.82 ERA. He started 16 games. 1970, he split his time between Omaha and Kansas City. 1971, he became a starter and was the best pitcher on the team. He had really one good solid year. He was 15-8 with a 2.71 ERA. He started 32 games, started 30 out of the 32 games, had 7 complete games and 1 shutout, pitched 200 innings, only had 76 strikeouts, but he walked 72. But he had a 2.71 ERA and was 15-8. Would play one more year, 1972, with Kansas City before he ended his the next 2 years in the minor leagues with both Oklahoma City and Iowa. It's interesting that he has a 73 O-Pee-Chee card with Cleveland because he'd never pitched in Cleveland. He never made it to the pros after the 1972 season. So it's just an interesting card to have. In his major league career, he was 25-24 with a 3.56 ERA. He got into 113 games. 62 of them he started. His overall career, if you count his minors, was 68-78 with a 3.40 ERA. Played 11 years. Played till he was 27. He was out of the game. Next up, we're going to talk about Ray Barker. Ray Barker ended up playing a couple years as a first. He was a hitter. He ended up playing 12 years, but he came up and started in the Cleveland organization from 1961 through 1964. He was in the Cleveland organization. He made the majors just for a cup of coffee. Excuse me, I am talking about Floyd Weaver. I'm not even talking about Ray Barker, excuse me. Let's do it again. Ray Barker started in 1955 in the Baltimore organization through 1961. Was a pretty good hitter, played around 140 games every year in the minors. Hit over 15 home runs 5 years in a row. Make that 9 years in a row because he ended up hitting 15 for Rochester in 61, 25 for Jacksonville, 16 for Jacksonville. In 1964, he hit 23 for Portland. And then he came to Cleveland and got into 11 games, only got 6 at-bats, didn't get a hit. Went on to New York in 1965, where he'd have his most productive year. He got in 98 games, had 205 at-bats, 52 hits, 7 homers, 31 RBIs. 1966 came back with New York, got into 61 games, had 3 homers and 13 RBIs. Played in the minors for 67, most of the year, 108 games, and then got a late call-up and played in New York. Got 29 at-bats, only had 2 hits, and his career would be over. He ended up playing 13 seasons total, if you count the majors and the minors, and he ended up with 191 homers, 831 RBIs, and 1,500 hits. And he had a really nice minor league career, just couldn't make it in the major leagues except for the one decent year he had with New York. Ray Barker. Now we'll move on to Floyd Weaver, who I was talking about earlier. We'll talk about Floyd Weaver now. Came up in 1961 with Cleveland, would pitch with them through the 1964 season. Got a cup of coffee in 1962 with Cleveland, only got in 1 game, started the game, went 5 innings, gave up 3 hits, 1 run, and struck out 8. Had a pretty good start. Would go back to the minors for 63, 64, and 65. Would come up in 65 halfway through the year for Cleveland and get into 32 games. Started one of them, pitched 61 innings, had 37 strikeouts, but had a high ERA of 5.87. Would go to Portland after that, Jacksonville, Phoenix, got traded to the New York Giants and was in the Phoenix organization. Never had many good years after that. Was just kind of a get into 15, 20 games. Got traded to the Chicago White Sox in 1969. Got called up in 1970 to the White Sox. Would go 1-2 in 31 games. 3 games started, again, 61 innings pitched, 51 Ks. Had a solid 4.38 ERA. Would pitch the next couple years in Chicago. Then he went to Milwaukee in 71 and did get into 21 games for Milwaukee, but had a 7.24 ERA. Would play the next 2 years, 72, 73, in the Chicago Cubs organization, but in Wichita. So for his major league career, he was 4-5 with a 5.21 ERA. All levels, he was 67 and 70 with a 4.45 ERA. Was solid. Again, had almost 150, decisions. So he got quite a bit of time, but never could make it into the pros. And his career would be over at the age of 32. And the last player on this list is Bill Davis. Bill Davis was the first baseman who, was played at University of Minnesota. He had a very short career, came up in 1964 at the age of 22, was in the Cleveland organization for a couple years. 1965 had a really good year. He had 33 homers with 106 RBIs, batted .311 for the Portland AAA team. He came up in Cleveland and got a cup of coffee at the end of the year. He was 3 for 10, had a 300 batting average for Cleveland. Went back to Portland in 66, 17 homers, 48 RBIs, before getting called up again by Cleveland. Got 38 at-bats with 6 hits, 1 homer, 4 RBIs. He would go back to Portland in 68, have a pretty good year, 12 homers, 66 RBIs. And in 69, got traded to Minnesota and then to St. Louis. And in the minor leagues, he got into 90 games, had 13 homers, 55 RBIs. And in 1969, he played for the San Diego Padres in the expansion draft and got into 31 games, was 10 for 57 with 1 RBI and batted .175, and that would be the end of his career at the age of 27. In the majors, he only got into 64 games, had 121 plate appearances, had 1 homer, 5 RBIs. In all levels, at a minor league level, he had 71 homers, 262 RBIs, and got into 557 games. Solid player. All of them were solid players, but it's just ironic that none of these guys made it, really, except for Mike Hedlund had the one good year, and Ray Barker was a solid player in the minors, but not in the majors. So that's it for the show. I was going to show you a couple of pickups that I got. Anytime I pick up a new Veda Pinson, I got his 1963 post. I didn't have it. And then I wanted to show you something that's kind of unusual. I showed it a couple of days ago when I did a show with John. By the way, if you get a chance to go check that out, I did an hour interview with John from Nerding Out with Cards. It had a lot of fun. Was a good time, and we had a lot of fun doing it. Tomorrow, it'll probably come out on Thursday or Friday. I'm hoping to do one again with John from Nerding from Cards and also Rob from Bucks and Six. We're going to talk about a number of different subjects that I've kind of put together for them and just have a good time talking. I always enjoy doing collaborations when I can, and I look to hopefully do a lot more. But I want to show you something that's interesting that maybe some of you don't know about, because when we think of Perez Steel, we think of, the Hall of Fame stuff. We think of his Hall of Fame cards. We also think of the Diamond Kings. But there was a set put out in 1985 called the Donruss Slugger set. It was 8 cards, basically cards. What they did is they came in a super bubblegum pack. And you can see up here it says Donruss Sluggers of the Hall of Fame. And this is the Dick Perez did these. And there's only 8 of them. It was a set of 8. And you can see on the back here, see the 8 guys right here. It was just a bubblegum pack, and they did the cover for it. And Dick Perez did these, and these are just beautiful. This is the Frank Robinson. Here's the Hank Aaron one. I bought the whole set. I just think it's different. I like unusual things, but the Mickey Mantle, I mean, look at that. It's really nice. And there's a Stan Musial. There's a Johnny Mize, which is a very, very underrated Hall of Famer. Great hitter. Man, that guy could pop a ball. Get the great Lou Gehrig. Isn't that a beautiful photo? Ted Williams. Get that out of that light. And last but not least, the Bambino, Babe Ruth. But just a cool set. This is from, let's see up here, I put it on. It's a 1985 Donruss Slugger set, and it's Dick Perez Steel artwork. Just a great set. I put them in these 9x12s, fit perfect for them, and so I can keep them nice. One other thing I picked up, I enjoy picking up these supers, but there's one of my favorite receivers of all time. His name is Danny Abramowitz. He played for New Orleans Saints most of his career, and him and Archie Manning had a pretty good thing going in the early 70s. But just a really underrated receiver, had a really nice career. Anytime I can pick one of these up, I got this for $1. I'm not going to pass up a super for $1. So that's all I got for you today. Again, look for that talk that I'm going to have, and then I'll have another show out probably by the weekend. And appreciate all the feedback, comments, anything you want to ask me or anything you're interested in, let me know. Hope you enjoyed this and hope you learned something about all these players. Until next time, take care.